How's it going, everybody? Texas Man here. I hope you guys are all having a great day. Please give this video a thumbs up if you guys really enjoyed. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. Also, do me the biggest favor of all. Hit the bell notification button so you guys don't miss out on future videos or streams here in the future. Also, make sure to head over to Twitch. Follow me at Douglas447 with a capital D. And in this video, we're going to be continuing on reading through my book series. This, of course, we're going to be continuing on reading through Delta Force. This is going to be part 2. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out part 1, make sure you guys do that. And if you guys are reading along with me, we're going to be starting at the very bottom page of chapter 6, where the second large black line starts. We're going to be reading right under there where it says, "We are entering the uncharted space," to start off the first sentence that I'll be starting at. And I've got about 45 minutes to an hour to read. So this will be a really long video, and I'm not going to be able to finish the book in this, so I'm going to be still dividing this book up into at least 3-4 parts. So look forward to those coming out in the future, and I hope you guys enjoy this book read through. And of course, we're going to be continuing on reading in Chapter 1, The Forces of Evil. As we've just finished with Part 1, we have been introduced to Andrew Prime and Amanda Prime, and things on the planet Delta Mega aren't going really well for them, and the president of Delta Mega wants to break away from the Corps forever, which is just a stupid political move. So here we go. "We are entering the uncharted space and will drop out of energy space near the planet New Heaven in 3 minutes, said Devon. Good work, brother. Let me know when we arrive in New Heaven's atmosphere while I go wake up our parents, said Douglas. Douglas left his command chair in the core ship, walked to the sleeping quarters, and knocked on his parents' door to their room. What is it? Asked Dave, inside of the room. Dad, we are about to drop out of energy space and we'll be landing on New Heaven in a few minutes, said Douglas. Thank you, son. We'll be on the command bridge in just a few moments, replied Dave. Where is Mom? Asked Douglas. She is in this room, answered Dave. Is she all right? Asked Douglas, in a concerned tone. Yes, Douglas, I'm okay. We're in the middle of doing something private, said Deborah. Sorry for disturbing you. I'll see you both on the command bridge, said Douglas. Douglas walked down the hallway, entered the command bridge, and sat down in his command chair. I love you so much, Amanda, said Andrew. As do I, replied Amanda, before giving Andrew a 10-second kiss on the lips. So what happens now with me living with you on your property? Asked Amanda, ending the kiss. Since we're old enough, I thought about going to your place, purchasing a truck, letting you pick up what you can fit into your truck from your old home, and bringing it here, answered Andrew. Andrew, you are the sweetest thing. Only a truly loving husband from Delta 6 would come up with an idea like that, said Amanda. Amanda gave Andrew a big, long kiss, and within minutes the couple was asleep as the clock in the room ticked to 2:30 a.m. Douglas, we and the rest of the fleet have arrived at New Heaven and are beginning our landing on the home city where God lives now, said Devon. Dave and Deborah entered the command ship's bridge and looked at Douglas weirdly. Douglas was shy to his parents as he had interrupted a romantic event in the parents' room. Dave and Deborah smiled at their son, and Douglas smiled back, both sides of the fuse trying to forget that moment. Let's see what God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit need from us that they can't handle with the planet Delta Mega, said Douglas. As the core ship landed onto the platform, Unifor looked out of the main glass window to see Jesus and a host of angels waiting to escort the team to their sleeping quarters in the city. Devon finished landing the ship on the platform. The team grabbed their lightsabers from the ship's armory and exited out of the ship to be greeted by Jesus and 10 angels. Welcome back to New Heaven, Unit 4, said Jesus. Please show us to our sleeping quarters so we can prepare for the meeting with God, the Holy Spirit, you, and the other members of the Corps to discuss the current issue with the planet Delta Mega, said Douglas. Jesus and the angels escorted Unit 4 to a building where all the commanders of the planets that formed the Corps lived and where the team would be spending the night. As the new day arose and brought the brightness of the sun, Andrew and Amanda woke from their sleep at 9:43 a.m. Andrew's brown eyes were still dazzled at his beautiful wife's beauty. His golden hair made the couple seem as if though they were brother and sister, and people in Delta 6 that did not know about the wedding said so out loud. It was funny at first for people to think that, yet it eventually became an irritation. I'm sorry. It was funny for people to think that, yet eventually it became an irritation to them both, especially when it was said in front of large groups of people on the street. The day continued with Andrew and Amanda preparing for work and walking to the driveway's end to a pickup truck Andrew called in to use. The newlywed couple entered the truck with Andrew in the driver's seat and headed for Amanda's home for the last time. Time passed on very swiftly that day as Amanda watched other farmers do their daily routines on their own farming property. It was a sad scene as Amanda began to roll tears down her eyes as the truck pulled up into the farmhouse's driveway, for this was the last time she would see her original home. "Please wait here, sweetie, while I go get my few things," said Amanda. "You don't want assistance in carrying anything?" asked Andrew. "No, thank you, Andrew. I'm just going inside to look for something that will hopefully protect our planet if the Corps decides to permanently leave Delta Mega in solitude," replied Amanda. Amanda exited out of the truck and walked inside of the farmhouse she grew up and lived in for the past 20 years of her life. Amanda searched her room, which was tidy and without dust, opened the dresser door, and grabbed a small device from inside of a sock. Amanda placed the device into her right front pants pocket and returned to the truck with a happier face. "Find what you were looking for?" asked Andrew. "Indeed I did, and I hope what I took will not have to be used," replied Amanda. If you guys are also curious, in this book I have like these long black lines that separates what's going on, because you've got Andrew and Amanda really quick. You've got Andrew and Amanda on Delta Mega doing their own thing, and then you've got Unifor and the Corps doing their thing at the same time. So it's like a parallel timeline, kind of like 24. So this is kind of confusing if you're not reading the book with me. Just to say real quick. Unifor was dressed in their usual attire and was in the middle of suiting up with their individual lightsaber. Douglas Armstrong had his green lightsaber, Devin had the famous golden lightsaber, Deborah had her purple lightsaber, and Dave had his blue lightsaber. As the team members met in the hallway of the hotel they slept in, a friend they had not seen in many months came towards them and greeted them. "Welcome to the Corps Hotel and gathering space on New Heaven," said a young man of the age of 22. "You look great, my friend," said Douglas. "How old are you as of now?" asked Deborah. "I will be 4,439 years old as of next year," replied the young man. "It was great to meet you after so long of traveling the universe and exploring new planets, Ashbeka," said Dave. "Unifor and Ashbeka, come with me, for the meeting about the issue with Delta Mega is starting in a few minutes," said the Holy Spirit, interrupting the conversation. The group of 6 members walked down the narrow hallway, turned a corner to enter a room, and sat down in an assigned seat. While sitting down, Unifor examined who was guiding the Holy Trinity in the matter at hand. The team looked around to see Droid General Ace of C7S6, Tree General Rosh of FE74, Hamster General Billy of Earth 2's Hamster Harbor, General Abby of Cassando, General Barron of Core Cloud, and a new general unknown to Unifor's knowledge. As Unifor finished sitting down, God stood up out of his chair and looked at the angels at the doors. "Please close the doors to this circular conference room for the safety of our members," said God. The angels closed the doors and left the interior of the room, yet remained outside to guard the 4 entrances to the room. "This meeting is being held because 2 days ago we received several deep space messages from an ally planet called Delta Mega. The planet, if you remember, was created by an explosion of a star, and it had no life on the planet until I ordered a group of humans to colonize it. However, though this planet is our ally and has no way of protecting itself from any forces of evil, we have 2 requests from the Council of Flint and President Jeremy," said God. Douglas stood up out of his chair and looked at God in the eyes directly, preparing a question he hoped would be answered quickly. "Before you go into further detail on the issue, my lord, who is he?" asked Douglas, pointing his right arm towards the unknown person in the room. "This is General Ultimate. He is in second command of all the planets in the uncharted space, and is the ambassador to the planet Delta Mega also," replied God. Douglas sat down in his chair and looked at General Ultimate with a new understanding of why he was in the room. "We have gathered here today to discuss the request given to us by Delta Mega's leaders, and vote on whether or not the Corps should accept the request and turn them into terms," said God. God sat back down in his chair, and the room was silent for a few minutes. General Ultimate stood up and began to speak his view on the matter. "Council of Flint and President Jeremy wants to be separate from the Corps forever, and no longer have Corps ships, fighters, or other military equipment near their planet ever again," said General Ultimate. Douglas began to laugh silently, yet every one in the room heard it. "Do you have something you wish to add, Douglas?" asked God. Douglas stood up and looked at each person in the room before he spoke. "The requests laid out before us from the planet Delta Mega are the most stupid ideas I have heard in my life," said Douglas. "All right, Douglas, prove your point," said General Ultimate before sitting down in his chair, located across from Unit 4. "Delta Mega has no army at all, and yet they want to be apart from the strongest army in the universe. To me, this leads me to wonder if Delta Mega is planning to side with a new armed leader and use Delta Mega as the arms base of operations. If we agree to these requests and make them terms, what are we going to do if the planet is attacked and they have no military to defend themselves? They have only a small police force to enforce the laws. They have no troops with combat experience. They have no type of technology to be able to construct fighters, ships, or energy engines to have a space army. It is my belief that such terms would render Delta Mega to be an open target for the armed to attack, and we would not be allowed to assist them in any way. This meeting should not be even happening," said Douglas. Douglas sat down, and God stood up. "General Ultimate, do you wish to comment on Mr. Armstrong's speech on the matter?" "Yes, I do," said the general, standing up. "I agree with everything you spoke in this room, Douglas. However, if we don't allow the request to become terms, the Corps may lose an ally planet that may wish to join us again once they realize being part of the Corps is a benefit. The planet has not stated that they are becoming our enemies. They just don't want our aid, and I think the people on Delta Mega have the freedom to choose their destiny," said General Ultimate. "Or their fate," interjected Deborah, without standing up. "This is my last comment on this matter. General Ultimate, if what you say is true, I agree to say yes to the requests. However, since you're the ambassador to this planet, are you sure all the primes of Delta Mega have agreed to these requests? Or are you basing your facts on the Delta 1 continent where the rich people live and just leave out the voices of those on Delta 2 to 6, where the farm people work every day of their lives until death?" said Douglas, after standing up. Douglas and General Ultimate sat down at nearly the same time. "Are there any more comments on the matter at hand?" asked God. There was complete silence in the room for about 15 seconds. "All right then. My son here will keep track of how many votes are for and against making the request from Delta Mega's leaders' terms once he makes his own vote." Jesus called everyone's name out and tallied the votes. There were a total of 9 votes for and a total of 4 against the request becoming terms. The 4 who voted against the terms was Unit 4, and it made the team feel as if Douglas's speech made no difference at the meeting. It was like the generals in the Holy Trinity had made up their minds already and only needed the team there to allow the core rules to follow. It fueled Douglas's anger that not only did Jesus and the Holy Spirit agree to this, but God also. The meeting was done. Unit 4 stormed out of the conference room while God headed for the communication station to reply back to Delta Mega that their requests were now terms the entire Corps had to follow, and it seemed like that way forever. Andrew and Amanda were on the dirt road on the way back to their farmhouse, where they were going to live out the remainder of their lives. As Andrew drove up into the driveway, the neighbor who allowed Andrew to use the truck walked up to Andrew's side of the truck. "Thank you so much for allowing us to borrow your truck, sir," said Andrew to the elderly gentleman. "No problem at all, Andrew. I guess she only wanted things she could have with her at all times, and not bulky objects like furniture," said the neighbor, seeing the truck's trunk empty. "True, she really only wanted one thing that I don't even know about," said Andrew. "Must have been important to her than anything else on that property she lived on for so many years," said the neighbor. "I guess so, sir. Thank you for the truck, so we did not have to walk a total of 40 miles, said Andrew. The neighbor took the keys from Andrew's hands, strolled into his truck, and drove away onto his farm property. Andrew and Amanda walked into the house and sat down around the kitchen. Andrew looked deeply into his wife's eyes and realized something was wrong. "What is wrong, Amanda? You seem as if though you're very angry," said Andrew. "I'm not angry yet, but I am certainly going to become afraid about the reply from the Corps. Do you have the radio so we may listen to today's news?" replied Amanda. Andrew stood up out of the chair he was sitting in, walked over to the kitchen cabinets, opened the cabinet, and pulled out a radio. Andrew closed the cabinet, placed the radio on the kitchen table between Amanda and Andrew, and sat down. Amanda turned the dials on the radio to the news channel, and a report about the reply from the Corps for the messages sent days ago was being broadcasted. "I sure hope that the Corps decided against the request the Council of Flint and President Jeremy Prime sent," said Andrew. "As Delta Mega's chief news deliverer, it is my sad duty to inform the people that live on this planet the Corps' decision," said the reporter on the radio channel. "He's messing around with everybody," said Andrew. "I doubt it," replied Amanda. "As of today, the Corps High Commander sent a reply message announcing that the request have become official terms between the Corps and the planet Delta Mega. Our home is no longer part of the Corps, and no Corps ships, fighters, or any other military equipment is allowed near our planet. If anything of Corps design enters our atmosphere ever again, it will mean war between the Corps and the Primes. This is the end of today's news broadcast. Goodbye and good night," said the reporter. Amanda turned off the radio and pulled out of her pants pocket the small device she took from her old house. "What is that?" asked Andrew. "This is called a thumb drive, and the last of its kind. It contains instructions of how to build a time machine and a super weapon," answered Amanda. "What for? Why do we need that on this peaceful planet?" asked Andrew. "Because our government just heard that they do not have any army protecting us from any forces of evil," said Amanda. "How are a time machine and a super weapon going to help our planet now, especially since we don't have the approval of the Council of Flint or President Jeremy to build such devices?" asked Andrew. "The barn is large enough to conceal our work. Building a super weapon will allow us to be able to protect our planet from invaders, and a time machine will allow us to travel back in time so we can prevent our government from sending the messages to the Corps," said Amanda. "All right, I'm in. Yet how are we going to access the information on the thumb drive without a computer?" replied Andrew. Amanda placed the thumb drive on the top of the radio, and the couple watched as the thumb drive melted into the radio. "What happened?" asked Andrew. "The thumb drive's information is now downloaded into the radio. All one has to do is turn the radio to the correct channel, and they'll be able to listen to the instructions of how to build the two devices," said Amanda. "Awesome, sweetheart. Let's get to work to save our home planet," said Andrew. Andrew and Amanda Prime left the house with the radio, entered the barn, and Andrew started working on the time machine, while Amanda began constructing a super weapon. An acid rainstorm was pouring down on the shielded city on the planet Tasper 12. The citizens, both human and demon alike, were at the wedding hall, watching two humans kiss after a demon preacher pronounced Nikolai and Raimi a married couple. It was somehow amazing. It was somehow an amazing sight when the two evil humans kissed with the eruption of a volcano in the background. While the night moved on, guests began to return home, and the new wedded couple walked a short distance to their new home. Once in the comfort of their marriage bed, Nikolai and Raimi began to do much more than just cuddle each other. Clothing was being stripped and kissing was non-stop. "Give me a child, Nikolai, so there can be an evil trinity to go up against the Holy Trinity," said Raimi. "Your desire will be met, my love. It will be a boy, and I will name him after your grandfather, Nathan," said Nikolai. "But what do you mean you will name your child Nathan? Do you think I'll die in childbearing?" asked Raimi. Nikolai dismissed the issue at hand and made love to his wife with an evil scheme. Nikolai was the son of Satan, and after his father's death and defeat against the Corps, he wanted a revenge to prove to the universe that he was better than his father. The man, which was part demon, devoured the hours he spent making love to Raimi. Nikolai did indeed love her, for that was not the issue Raimi had brought up that night. The issue was that Nikolai talked as if though she was going to The issue was that Nikolai talked as if he was going to live forever, and without the presence of Raimi. The strangest thing is that in a few hours, Nikolai would not have the presence of Raimi anymore. "Amanda, I'll be back in a few hours. I'm going to look for parts for the time machine," said Andrew inside of the barn. Andrew walked outside of the barn and began searching his property full of junk for parts to the machine. As Amanda continued to work inside of the barn, a stranger was observing Andrew's wife constructing another part to the superweapon. Not thinking Amanda would hear the sound of her leaving the area, the stranger leaped off the high-level part of the barn, collapsed to the ground, stood up, and turned around to see Andrew standing right next to her. "Are you all right, Cedar?" asked Andrew, pausing in his speech and realizing who he was talking to. "Yes, I'm fine, Andrew," replied Cedar, hoping to leave before being questioned about her appearance on the property. "What were you doing on the exterior high level of my barn?" asked Andrew. "Sorry for not entering the barn and checking if you were inside, but I tried the house because I lost a remote control airplane and thought it might have crashed around your property," answered Cedar, hoping this was her chance to finally leave. "Did you find it yet?" asked Andrew, knowing she did not have it with her anyway. "No, I haven't, but I'm sure it'll show up eventually," said Cedar. Would you like your sister Amanda to help you look around our property?" Would you like your sister Amanda to help you look around our property?" asked Andrew. "No thanks, Andrew. It is nearly dark, and I must return home," replied Cedar. Cedar walked away from Andrew's sight and headed back home. Andrew entered the barn with the parts he was looking for and told Amanda her sister was just here. Amanda wondered why she did not ask to see her, and Andrew's response was silence for a few seconds while he saw the broken glass window from where Cedar leaped from. "I doubt she was looking for some remote plane. I think she was watching you and I work on our project," said Andrew, wondering if Cedar saw and heard enough to report the couple to the local police. Nikolai Sith was still in bed with his new wife Raimi, with a grin on his face. "Why are you so happy this morning?" asked Raimi. "Isn't it common for one to be happy after one had the most unbelievable night in their life, like the night before?" asked Nikolai. "Do you really mean that, Nikolai?" "Yes, Raimi. Yes. Yes, my dear, and so much that Yes, my dear, and so much that what I'm about to do will be because I love you. Please do not try to fight me, or else the child will die," said Nikolai. "Child? What child?" asked Raimi. Nikolai jumped with intensity onto Raimi and drove his right hand through his wife's stomach. The pain was so great that Raimi should have screamed. However, because of the damage done to her body, Raimi Sith was murdered by Nikolai Sith. Nikolai Nikolai removed his hand from the inside of Ramey's stomach and pulled out a tiny organism. Within seconds after the event, Nikolai watched as the organism transformed into a 1-year-old child. Welcome into the universe, my son. Soon you and I will conquer this universe as father and son. Together, Nikolai and Nathan Sith will be unstoppable, said Nikolai, before using his dark powers and making Ramey's body vanish. Once I have gathered my forces, you and I will leave this planet and destroy the core, starting with the planet Delta Mega. A planet with no allies and no military force to defend itself, said Nikolai. As the year in the universe turned to 4,439, Andrew and Amanda turned to the age of 30. It had been 10 years since they had been married, and 10 years since they began constructing a time machine and a superweapon to assist their planet from the current state of trash it was in. Andrew and Amanda walked out of the house and entered the barn to continue working on their projects for another 5 hours. The couple worked every single day, except for Sunday, for 5 hours until lunch, 5 hours until dinner, and another 5 hours until going to bed. They seemed to the neighbors to be lazy people, since they did not work as a farmer on the property. People would walk by with their animals and come up with weird theories that they were making love in the barn every day to have children, and fast. Andrew and Amanda opened the barn door together and heard a sound coming from outside of the barn of the higher level. Did your sister Cedar lose another remote plane on our property again? Asked Andrew. Better not be. I'm sick to death that she keeps coming across the fence between our properties only to find some machine and not talk with me. She has not talked with me ever since the day I married you, Andrew, said Amanda. Really? Not once in the past year? Asked Andrew. That's right. It's almost as if though she is spying on us, replied Amanda. The sound of the two humans heard